Hello everybody and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome home everybody. We're so happy to have you here. If you find that you're at a point in your life where you're just so sick and tired of talking to just yourself about movies and recognize one of your biggest problems in life is that you have nobody that'll listen to you talk about movies, well, guess what? You're welcome. You could just say thank you because that's what we're going to do here now, and join us here and let's talk some movies. Today we are going to be reviewing and discussing the movie VHS 99, which came out in 2022. So as we jump into the review and discussion for VHS 99, we're obviously continuing on our beautiful, lovely VHS franchise review series that we got going on in the channel. We've kind of made it a supportive community goal to support each other here at ZakIsCinema, to try our best here to review every single VHS movie in the month of October, kind of leading up to Halloween, which I thought would be a blast here. I am very new to this franchise. I really only saw the first one maybe a couple months ago and then had a blast with VHS Halloween, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of cover all of these on my latest review series here. So for anyone new here or new to the channel, we're doing something a little bit different where this isn't going to be one general review, but we're actually going to be breaking down and reviewing and discussing each and every short film, so you kind of get my thoughts on that with a overall section towards the end here. And I found it kind of difficult to do one rating, so what we're doing here instead is doing a point system at the end of each short film, kind of reviewing it on its own merits and then averaging them out at the end. So with each review, with each short, you're going to get a point system here. 0 points I'm going to give it if I just did not have a good time, do not recommend it. We're going to go a half a point if I'm kind of mixed on the experience, and then 1 point if I fully recommend this short. And then, like I said, we'll average them out so you get kind of a percentage rating towards the end with my overall thoughts here. So without further ado, let's jump into the review section, starting with the first short film, the short called Shredding, which was directed by Maggie Levine. A punk rock prankster band sneaks into a burned down venue where other band members died in a stampede, thinking they'll get a cool video, but they wake up something vengeful from the ashes. Now, this one unfortunately continues, I guess, that horror trend, but more specifically, this VHS trend of just having deplorable, despicable, unlikable characters that you're really just watching the short just to figure out and eventually see how they're going to meet their maker and all perish at the end. This one is, I guess, a little bit more tolerable to me because, yeah, there are a bunch of obnoxious punk rock band members that are teenagers, and they're more so pranking and being kind of rude and assholes just to each other. But I still find it kind of frustrating that these VHS segments really go with that trope of having unlikable characters. And I get not every character is going to be super likable, but to me, by this point in my review series and my watch-alongs here, I just find that they're pushing it. It seems like they're almost kind of going out of their way to not make complicated characters, not make mixed characters, but just really making them unlikable. And I feel like it's so frustrating because it really doesn't add a lot. There's one short here that kind of does it well, but for the majority of these, I feel like it really goes nowhere and there's really no point. And I just don't understand why they keep that trope going. And it's especially relevant with this one. And unfortunately, I guess now talking about it out loud and thinking about it more, I think it does kind of hurt this one a little bit, even though they're kind of being assholes to themselves. Even the drummer guy, the whole band kind of targets this poor guy, even though he's a bit of an asshole himself, but they're just so mean and over the top mean, like Stephen King bullies to this supposed friend in their music group. And it's frustrating with a demonic horror one that they're going for with this one. one because I think it takes away from the creepiness factor, and I'm really just trying to see how these demons are going to take out these characters. So a little frustrating because you don't need to make them overly likable. I just kind of need to kind of get behind them and would like some hope of them making it out alive, because I feel like it just kind of removes intensity when you don't care about anybody on screen. And unfortunately, this one, I don't find the lore and the demonic backstory all that interesting. This current band is breaking in and going to play at this abandoned venue where a previous band years ago were stampeded during a fire when everybody was trying to escape. And then there's, town lore and rumors of the band and the demons from the band still being there. But the setup's not all that interesting where I really care about that. It's not very interesting. It's very cliche, pretty straightforward. So even the lore side of things and the creepy demonic factor really don't even make up for the lack of characters or interesting dynamic there to me. And unfortunately, again with this one, I feel like it could turn it all around if the demon and possession kind of angle they're going for was scary, intense, or at least over the top and fun, but it's really just none of that. When I read the plot to you, I guess you kind of assume where things are going and how it ends up, and that's exactly how it ends up. The lore's kind of mundane here, and it just turns out that the lore of the previous band was exactly true, and they're still there, haunting people who I guess break in and try to play music, and then they end up coming back alive and killing all of our current band members in brutal ways. So some of the gore, some of the brutality there is fun, but by the point you get to that, you just don't really care about anything. So it's just like, okay, let's get to the next short here. And again, they really could have saved it with the ending, but it just plays out that way, kind of leaves off with a dud, and then has one of the goofiest endings I think I've ever seen with the previous band members when they're in their demon forms. They're looking like zombies and demons, which I notice is kind of a trend with these VHS movies when they go that more spiritual route. And then they tear apart, eat, and infect the current band members, and then we get a shot at the end of the current band members like in their zombie demonic form playing a band looking like broken, cheap, rundown animatronic characters, and it just leaves off on a note that isn't funny, it's not unsettling, it's not scary, it's just kind of like okay. And that's just what I'm kind of left with, unfortunately. So I think for this one, we got to go 0 points for this short. The next short we're going to be discussing is Suicide Bid, directed by Johannes Roberts. A freshman desperate to join a prestigious sorority agrees to spend the night buried alive in a coffin for hazing, only to find that the campus legend may not be just a story. Luckily, when I was getting into this short, I was like, okay, this one is definitely a step above the other one. Maybe all these aren't going to be such duds like the first one really set my expectations to be. And to me, I found at least the initial premise and setup very interesting. To me, here at ZakIsCinema, I have always kind of found sorority and frat Greek culture very interesting. I was never a part of them, clearly. I mean, I was never accepted there, but that's okay. I didn't want to end up in a coffin like this girl, so I think I chose my friends correctly here. But I always just found it interesting because if you go to a college or live near a college or have friends that go to colleges and have frats and sororities there, everybody always hears about these crazy over-the-top hazing rituals or rituals to get into these frats and sororities, and you're always kind of wondering if some of these are true, if some of them are bullshit or exaggerated. So I like that it kind of plays into this because this story and premise kind of takes that idea, the legend behind hazings and how far people have pushed those, and kind of take it up another level by having a girl stay in a coffin in a graveyard overnight. And I feel like it balances it so well where it's such a wild, crazy, creepy idea, but it never goes too far with that premise where you honestly, I feel like I could see frats and sororities talking about doing something like this, maybe going through something like this. So it doesn't push it too far where you could actually see real life people trying to do something so awful to somebody. And when I was talking about the first short with its unlikable characters, I feel like this one gets the unlikable characters pretty right here, where it treats the unlikable other sorority girls here as unlikable characters because they're basically the villains of the story. And the main girl that we're kind of following that's going through this hazing ritual, she's kind of unlikable. She treats her friend really badly, but then kind of has somewhat of an arc to kind of make up for it. So I feel like it gets its differences in characters pretty correct here. And again, with positives with this one, I feel like this one to me shows the benefits and what you can really do with found footage. And it's so creepy once they get this poor girl down in the coffin and she's filming it found footage style. She has a camera with her. So we as the audience are physically in this coffin with her. And I feel like that's the benefits of found footage that you really wouldn't get in a traditionally filmed and shot movie. So I found myself just kind of getting a little bit claustrophobic, imagining myself in a similar position or situation, and I feel like it kind of elevates its simple premise here. And then I also found it interesting as someone who just does not like spiders, just hates tiny bugs, I guess, that this poor girl gets a box from these awful sorority sisters where they say, if it gets too much, before you ring the bell, open this box and it's going to give you some strength and power to keep pushing through. At one point, she opens the box and it's just a box of live spiders. And I'm like, it takes this premise to another level where that's such a simple thing that they didn't need to do, but because they did it, it makes it just that much more uncomfortable. You really feel for this girl in the coffin and you really hate the other sorority sisters. So as someone who hates spiders, I could not imagine being in a similar predicament like this. And I think the whole time it builds some good creepiness factor and some intensity. You assume that the town lore behind the other sorority sister that died in the coffin with a similar hazing situation would show up in some form. And I love the introduction you get to her. I assume she'd come in the coffin, but she almost just kind of comes out of nowhere where the main girl just kind of turns her camera and she's just appears out of thin air. And I found it much more creepier that they didn't add like loud jump scare music. Like it's a reveal to the character and it's a reveal to us, and we just kind of get to sit on that image with the character, again putting you right into her shoes, imagining what you would do in a situation like that. So I really enjoy the simple story. I enjoy how it plays out. I think unfortunately my only issue is when the previous sorority girl shows up, takes out our main girl, it does a time jump of the evil sorority sisters coming to check on her. They see that it's rained and they're wondering if she died, and then find the coffin empty. Then it jumps again and we see all the evil sorority sisters in their own coffin, which I thought was a perfect way to get revenge on these unlikable characters. It makes sense for it to play out, and again, they're getting what they're deserving here, but in a creepy similar way to what they did with the other girl as well. So I thought that was really cool and interesting. Just unfortunately, our main girl that got hazed and unfortunately passed away, she comes back there and she's in her demonic form and explains to the camera, but also the girl, that the other previous legend girl allowed her to, I guess, collect more sorority sisters for her to kill them so she could have her own sorority. And it sounds as dumb as I'm saying it out loud right now, because that's exactly how the dialogue is. And I'm like, okay, you were very close there. I think that could have just been implied a little bit and left off on a creepier note. I didn't need you to literally tell me that and take me out of it a bit. Besides that, that's a very easy one to look past. I do enjoy this one. I enjoy how it progresses, how it treats its unlikable characters, and its creepy premise that really puts you with the character. So I think for this one, we're going to go 1 point. Next, we're going to be discussing Ozzy's Dungeon, directed by Flying Lotus, a twisted 90s style kids game show where contestants face brutal challenges for a wish, and one mother, seething with grief over her daughter's injury, is out for revenge. Now, it took me a second when I was watching this one to realize the game show host is the guy that plays Trevor from GTA 5, and I think he is such a perfect perfect fit for a cheesy, creepy, nightmarish-fueled 90s kid game show where he plays such a likable but unlikable, creepy asshole so well. So I really enjoyed his character in here. I think he fits it perfectly. I think he fits the vibe when we're getting introduced to this game show and seeing part of an episode play out. I love its cheesy, kind of campy flavor to it with its cringy and over-the-top funny moments that really land very well here. I love Trevor in this one of how he's acting like an asshole, but you could see maybe behind the scenes a real game show host acting like this, just he's deciding to do it in front of the audience and camera because this man has no shame. At one point, he is doing a meat toss game, gets some meat sauce on his hands, and starts having one of his assistants like wipe his hand as he continues playing the game and announcing the game. So I thought jokes like that were landing so well for me. I was just having a lot of fun in this mini world that they kind of created. And like I said, this game show and the vibe they're setting up here has this nightmare, fever dream kind of sequence and feeling to it that I really like. And it really feels vastly different than a lot of the shorts I've seen in about all of these VHS movies that I've watched so far. So really enjoyed that here. And I love when it kind of gets to the main point where we're following this girl, Donna. She's competing against this other boy in the competition, and they're crawling through this disgusting maze of a human intestines kind of game show for kids kind of thing. And as Donna's getting out the last bit of the crawling space, she breaks her leg so badly, and it's like snapped in half. It's bleeding everywhere, and Trevor from GTA 5 just keeps the show going and is saying like, "Oh, looks like she got a boo-boo. Come on, get it out of there," and keep going. And just so funny with his delivery, and I'm so happy they chose an actor like him because another actor maybe would have played this too serious or way too over the top. So I think he balances that very, very well. And then even if they just stuck with this game show setup, I think that would have been interesting enough. But I love the kind of mini twist you get in here where after her daughter Donna breaks her leg and obviously loses the competition, there's a bit of a time jump where this mother reminds me of a more fucked up version of that lady from Ma, where she sets up this game show again in this rundown warehouse or garage setup and is making Trevor from GTA 5 and this short here go through the same exact game situation that her daughter went through, but in a more torturous kind of way, almost a more comedic version of Saw. But if Jigsaw was there berating you the whole time and threatening you with skin-eating poison and acid. So I enjoyed that kind of mini twist here. I didn't expect it to kind of go that way with the mother kind of stepping up and becoming the lead of this. And I think once the mom gets introduced and is the main lead here, she bounces off with Trevor from GTA 5 so well. I think she is so over the top but plays it so serious that she just comes off as creepy but so funny at the same time, but still you probably wouldn't want to mess with her. And I don't think I've ever had such an audible reaction to a movie when she's first explaining the game to Trevor and she lets out this snot rocket, and it is the most vile shit I've ever seen. Just so much snot, almost like you spit out a mouthful of soup, but it's coming through your nose. Like, it was so disgusting, and I found it so funny that she and all the other characters didn't even acknowledge it. And I think it just adds to that vibe of this whole thing feeling so funny, but so gross and fucked up at the same time. And I think when these VHS segments can blend its humor, outlandish ideas, but still focus on that horrifying situation, when they do that right, I think that it lands very, very well for me. And really, again, they kind of add another twist where I thought they were just going to make Trevor here go through the fucked up game show, then his mom was going to kill him at the end or do something else crazy. But it's kind of crazy at the end once Trevor kind of finishes it here and she wants her wish granted for her daughter, and Trevor offers to do it if they don't kill him. So Trevor agrees to take her back to the studio that's been kind of shut down, and he he takes her to the back of the set there, where we get this reveal that the Ozzy is actually a separate character, and he's some more fucked up demonic version of the Wizard of Oz from the Wizard of Oz. I guess the Oz from Wizard of Oz, I meant to say. So he's in this whole other layer. He actually has to take contestants back there to grant the wish, and he's this mix of a Mad Max villain with Oz from Wizard of Oz, and combined into one that actually grants your wishes. So I thought that was really cool. I love the reveal that he's basically this fucked up god that is deep in this cave system behind a kid's TV show set that actually grants the kids wishes here. And everything was hitting for me so well. I love the cheesy practical effects it was going for. It really fit that 90s TV vibe for me. Just unfortunately, this ending is such a disappointing dud to me, where the girl gets there, makes her wish, and then something creepy and fucked up comes out of the Oz guy that is granting the wish, and she whispers the wish to this god Oz creature thing in the back of the TV show, and apparently her wish is to just kill her family and the TV show host of Trevor, where she makes her wish, everything starts falling apart, and then we get to see scenes of their faces melting off of their face, and then it just kind of cuts to black, and I'm like, oh, that was it? Like, it doesn't even make any sense for this girl, Donna, to go along with everything her mother's doing for her, get revenge on this guy, and then just to wish away everybody. It didn't make any sense. It's not creepy. It's not interesting. It's not thought-provoking. It's just kind of like they ran out of ideas and needed to quickly shut this down. So that to me was so disappointing because of how much I was really enjoying everything else surrounding it. So I think, unfortunately, for that ending part, I got to go half a point for this one. Next, let's discuss The Gawkers, which was directed by Tyler McIntyre and Chris Lee Hill. A group of teens install webcams to spy on their neighbor, thinking it's just tame creeping, until the creepy starts creeping back in far worse ways than they ever expected. And again here, unfortunately, with VHS 99, I'm not sure why they push this VHS trope of just following a group of guys and making their whole personality about jerking off and wanting to fuck every single female that they come across with. I feel like a lot of these VHS tapes, just when they have a group of guys or guys' characters, that's all they're about in the most perverted and over-the-top ways. And half the time they're always skaters too, so I hate that trope that they're going for, because again, it makes them so unlikable, but it's so obnoxious and so annoying, and they really push it far with this one too. Not so much as with my complaints with the first one, with the very first and a couple other shorts in that first VHS movie, but to the point where these groups of guys are just talking about jerking off, talking about girls 24/7. They have this thing where they go around skating and talking to girls and hiding body cams in places, and at one point try to go up a girl's dress. They're leaning over pools and spying on pools and filming girls there. They're obsessed with the neighbor and just watching her and getting mad when she closes the blinds to her bathroom and just wanting to fuck every single female that they see. And it just gets so obnoxious and so annoying. It doesn't make these characters interesting whatsoever. So I really hate that trope. I really hope to not see that trope here again. But I think despite that, it does lead to an interesting premise where they're spying on this hot neighbor. They convince one of their friends' brothers, who's kind of nerdy and awkward and dorky, to make friends with her. He ends up going over there and installing some spyware on her new computer that she got so they can all watch her. So I enjoyed that because we have the unlikable characters. We also have the likable character that's kind of brought into our bad group of friends here, and they're all kind of corrupting him, making him do something that he doesn't want to do. So you kind of feel for the guy as well because he's trying to fit in. So there's some moral complications a little bit there, something a little bit there. I thought it set up an interesting premise because obviously something's up with this neighbor, and now we have spyware looking into the neighbor's house, and now we get to see it with all of our characters. And I thought it was so crazy and interesting when she starts undressing, takes off her wig that apparently she was wearing, and it turns out she's just like fucking Medusa. I was not expecting that. She all of a sudden recognizes the spyware there and realizes these boys are spying on her, flies over to the house and just starts dismembering these boys, almost like the vampire in the very first segment of Amateur Night from VHS 1. And I thought it was just so crazy because I knew something was up with this girl. I just was not expecting her to literally be Medusa. So I thought that was very interesting. And I like, of course, just seeing these boys get exactly what they deserve. So I thought the journey there was kind of worth it. I think my biggest issue with this one, unfortunately, is it has some iffy CGI on the Medusa character, which I can kind of look past. It's definitely fine, but I think to me, they decide to use this one as, for whatever reason, the frame narrative, where we get these intercut segments of this stop motion animation of this, I'm assuming the nerdy kid from this short, of him playing with his action figures and army figurines. And as it was like kind of spliced in, I'm like, wonder where this is going to lead to. And then when it never fulfilled anything and I realized it was just part of this short for some reason, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that makes no sense. You set up such a different frame narrative that I thought was going to go in a different direction. I had no idea where it was going to go, and that's what was making me interested in it, but it did not work for me. They basically have no frame narrative here. So unfortunately, I was going to give this one a half a point, but I think I was so disappointed with the lack of frame narrative, and the frame narrative that they gave us was just such a waste of time. They could have and should have just cut that entirely and trimmed off about 10 minutes. I'd love to talk to the person that made that decision because I have no idea what they were thinking. So I think for this short, I was going to go a half a point, but then with that, it just soured me so much on this that I think unfortunately, I got to go 0 points for this one. And lastly, let's discuss the short To Hell and Back, directed by Vanessa and Joseph Winter. On New Year's Eve, two videographer friends hired to film a witch's coven ritual are accidentally pulled into a hellish dimension and must fight their way out with demons, traps, and a tortured guide. Now, when I first started watching this one, I was definitely interested because I thought the conflicting tones were kind of meshing well, where you get these two friends that are literally just hired to film this witch's coven's ritual, a demonic ritual, and they're kind of joking with each other. They seem so out of their element. They're wearing all their New Year's Eve kind of gear and party setup. So I thought the conflicting tones there were landing pretty well. I thought it was funny, silly kind of premise, and I also found it kind of funny and interesting because I've never seen such a casual demonic witch's coven ritual, and it's just in some like grandma's basement, and I thought that was very interesting. And I love when it starts getting a little creepy when they start doing the ritual and the videographers aren't really sure what's going on, or if this is bullshit, or if it's going to end up being real, and then all of a sudden like the demon hell world starts blending with the current world and demons just kind of pop up out of nowhere, similar to the sorority one when the demon just kind of shows up in the casket almost just out of thin air. I love when these VHS movies do that, and the lack of music to me kind of just makes it feel more real, makes it feel more creepier to me. So you get a demon popping out behind the TV that really got me, one underneath the table that really got me too, and I thought I was really starting to enjoy this. Unfortunately, when this witch's coven starts doing their ritual, for some reason the videographers jump into the hell world during the ritual, during the seance thing, and that's when this whole short just unfortunately goes downhill. I thought the visuals were okay, but when they're kind of exploring the world, it just kind of seems like some cheap high school play set to me, where they're essentially just these two characters running around hell and seeing something creepy, screaming and running, and it's just that for the entire short until they find this creepy tour guide that looks like a more demonic, fucked up version of Furiosa, I guess, who's been trapped and locked in hell for a while, and she's just very, very over the top that I didn't find her creepy, I didn't find her funny, and the whole time these videographer friends are just making jokes to each other, so it just kind of took me out of it. Nothing in this was creepy. They're just screaming and crying and running the whole time while showing us supposed creepy stuff, and then they're pausing to kind of have quips with each other, saying like, I didn't think I was that bad of a friend. I didn't think I was that bad of a person. I don't belong here. I only have like petty crimes on my records. And then they're fighting about which one's the better friend. And I'm like, this is just stupid. There's really not much to say here. If any of these shorts so far that I would categorize as just stupid and a waste of time, it would unfortunately be this one. So for this one, I gotta go 0 points. And I would say overall, I'm not sure if this is going to be a hot take or not, but I left super disappointed with this one. I guess I went in with higher expectations just because of VHS 94 and VHS Halloween. I guess I just assumed it would have somewhat better quality and more consistency with that Shudder produced tag on it now. So I'm not sure if this is unpopular opinion, but really this one is right here with VHS Viral for me. I at least appreciated Viral's ideas even more than this one, and at least that one had a somewhat interesting frame narrative where this one doesn't even try to have a frame narrative. So I don't know, even the ones I gave half a point, I feel like I'm being overly generous with this one, and the lack of frame narrative just kind of makes it one of the most forgettable VHS experiences to me so far. So for my rating for this one, unfortunately, we got to go lower on this one because out of 5 total shorts, I guess not including the frame narrative because there is no one, I am giving this a 1.5 out of 5 or a 30% for VHS 99. You guys have my thoughts here on VHS 99. I am so very curious to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions on this. Is this similar to VHS Viral to you? Do you think I kind of have a hot take here and maybe appreciate this one more or appreciate some of its ideas and elements? I'd love to hear all your thoughts and feelings below. Please let me know your favorite and least favorite short from this one here. But that's about it. I appreciate anybody watching my videos, so thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.